Okay, so if you're in sales or marketing, you know the drill, right? The biggest challenge is finding the right customers. But what if I told you there's a kind of hidden system, a set of secret codes that could help you pinpoint your ideal prospects with some serious precision? Well, there is, and today we're going to unlock it.
So let's kick things off with a problem that I bet a lot of you have run into. Over on Reddit, a user named SalesCurious posted this question, and it's a classic. Am I doing it wrong? They were trying to build a very specific list of leads in a sales tool, and they just kept hitting a wall. It's that classic, pull your hair out lead gen headache.
So what were they trying to do? Well, their goal was super specific. They wanted to find these early-stage SaaS companies that were just starting to build out a sales team. They had a couple of reps, but they hadn't hired a manager yet. That's a perfect target for a lot of people. So they set up all the filters, hit go, and what was the result? A whopping 41% of the companies on their list still had a head of sales. Womp womp. So what went wrong here?
To figure this out, here's our game plan. We're going to start with that lead gen headache. Then we'll dive into the secret code for sales that's supposed to prevent this kind of thing. We'll break down how these codes actually work, see them in action, and then finally, we'll figure out why our Reddit users' search failed so badly. And we'll wrap up by looking at what's next for this kind of targeting.
All right, so the answer here? It's not some crazy new AI trick or some fancy keyword hack. It's actually a system that's been the backbone of business classification for decades. Let's talk about SIC and NAICS codes.
First up, we've got the SIC code. That stands for Standard Industrial Classification. This system was developed way back in the 1930s, and it was the US government's original way of organizing businesses. The best way to think about it? It's just like the Dewey Decimal System you used in the library, but for companies. Every type of business gets its own specific number. Simple as that. But, things change. Economies evolve. So in 1997, the SIC system was pretty much updated and replaced by NAICS. That's the North American Industry Classification System. And just like the name says, it's the modern standard that's used not just in the US, but across Canada and Mexico too. And this jump from SIC to NAICS, it's a really big deal. See, SIC codes are just 4 digits long, and only for the US, but NAICS codes, they're 6 digits, and they cover all of North America. Now that 2-digit difference might not sound like much, but it's huge. It lets NAICS be way more precise and can capture all these modern industries like software and e-commerce and biotech that the old SIC system, could have never even dreamed of.
Okay, but the real magic of these codes, it's all in how they're built. These aren't just a bunch of random numbers. They have this really cool hierarchical logic that lets you go from incredibly broad to totally laser-focused. Just imagine it's like a funnel, right? You start way up at the top with a massive economic sector, something like manufacturing. Then every single number you add to the code acts like another filter, narrowing your focus down and down and down, until you're left with a really specific type of business. This example makes it super clear. Let's say you want to find a very specific kind of furniture maker. You'd start with Division D for all of manufacturing. Okay, that's too broad. So you drill down to SIC 25, which is just furniture and fixtures. Getting closer, then you go to SIC 251 for only household furniture. And if you want to get really, really granular, you can go to SIC 2511, which targets companies that make specifically upholstered wood household furniture. See how powerful that is?
So you might be thinking, okay, that's cool for government reports, but what about me? Well, this is where it gets interesting. This isn't just some dusty old system for filing paperwork. These codes are actually the secret engine running in the background of a lot of the B2B sales and marketing tools you probably use every day.
And using these codes is fundamentally different than just a broad industry filter. A simple filter for software, for instance, could give you everything from video game studios to giant enterprise SaaS companies. But a specific NAICS code can give you only companies that develop, say, medical billing software. It's literally the difference between using a shotgun and a sniper rifle.
And get this, it's getting even easier. You don't even have to memorize these codes anymore. Their new AI-powered tools can take a simple natural language search, like just typing in companies that provide medical-related supplies, and translate it directly into the right codes for you. And boom, you type that in, and the AI just spits out this perfect list of relevant SIC codes. You get everything from surgical and medical instruments to medical and hospital equipment. You just look at the list, check the boxes for the ones that fit, and they're instantly added to your search. It makes the power of these codes accessible to pretty much everyone. Okay, so if these codes are so amazing, and the tools are getting smarter and easier to use, let's circle all the way back to our friend Sales Curious. Why on earth did their super specific search still spit out so many bad results? It's time to solve the Reddit riddle.
So just to remind you, here was the killer problem. They filtered for companies with 0 sales leaders, yet almost half of the results, 41%, had exactly that. So the system clearly failed, but the question is, was it the code's fault?
The answer is almost certainly no. See, the problem isn't the classification system itself, it's the really fragile data that's layered on top of it. The NAICS quote did its job perfectly. It found the right type of company. But the people data, the contact info, that was flawed. Why? Well, for one, contact data gets old fast. Someone who got promoted to head of sales last month might not be updated in the database yet. Second, job titles are a complete mess. Is a VP of revenue a sales leader? A simple filter might not know how to handle that. And finally, the data that platforms have on department headcount can just be, well, plain wrong. The code was the right tool, but it was being used on some pretty unreliable material.
All right, so what's the takeaway here? Where does this all leave us? The real solution comes down to blending this incredibly powerful tool with a smart strategy, not just relying on blind automation. First things first, let's get one thing straight. SIC and NAICS codes are an absolutely essential, incredibly powerful tool. If you do any kind of B2B sales, marketing, or research, learning how to use these is like having a superpower. It lets you find the right industries fast. But, and this is the absolute key to the whole thing, they are not a magic button. The real secret is a two-step process. Step 1, use the codes to build your foundation. You find all the right companies in your perfect niche. But then comes step 2. You have to manually verify and refine that list. Go check the key contacts on LinkedIn. See if the company has posted any new jobs. You have to treat that initial list as a starting point for your own research, not the finished product. Look, these codes basically unlock a map of the entire business world, letting you zoom in on any niche you can possibly imagine. They are the language that organizes our entire economy. So the only real question left is, now that you know the code, who will you find?